Hi everyone, and welcome to the Syncretism Society Virtual Academy. My name is Mehmet, and today's lesson will be part 4 of introducing the signs and the ruling planets. And today we'll be concentrating on the signs of Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, which is the winter seasons. If you already haven't checked out the previous 3 episodes I did to this little series, you can do that in the archives, and I'm doing it by season. So the first one was about spring, second one was about summer, and the third one was about autumn. So like I said, this one will be about the winter season, concentrating on the final quadrant of the sine wave and the signs of Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. And yeah, if you're watching this series for the first time, how I do it is I read about the sign and then I read about the ruling planets and discuss any little notes that I come across while reading. Like I've mentioned in my previous videos, each season has a vibe, or what we'll call a humor. So let me just bring my board forward. So we're going to be concentrating on this last quadrant, which is winter time. And the winter time is, I don't know if you can see here. So summer is hot and wet. Sorry, spring is hot and wet. Summer is hot and dry. Autumn is cold and dry. And winter is cold and wet. And also what we do in this little series is, as well as talking about the sign in general, we quickly relate it to the part of the body it's related to in medical astrology as well. So what I'm going to do is start reading. Like I always show you, the 2 main books I use for this is the Practical Astrologer, which is the main book I'm using. And then at the end, I use the book of New Astrology by Susan White, just to like recap a quick overview of each sign again. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read about the sign of Capricorn and then read about the planet of Saturn. So let's get into it. So Capricorn. The element of Capricorn is earth. Its quality and mode is cardinal. Its ruling planet is Saturn, and its symbol is the Capricorn. The Capricorn is a mythical beast with the head, front legs, and torso of a goat, and the tail of a fish. Accordingly, this sign is with 2 natures. The most commonly known side of Capricorn is that described by the combination of the goat, Saturn, and the element of earth. This is a dull, materialistic, practical, and unimaginative, serious and cautious sign. The Capricorn is the ideal industrialist or merchant, letting no humanitarian concerns interfere with the important business of making money. Of the goat, it is said that there are 2 kinds. The first remains in domestic captivity, tethered to a post. The second is the wild mountain goat, leaping from peak to peak. The first will work hard to be rewarded with the position of minor responsibility, while the second becomes the captain of the industry, the multimillionaire of Western capitalism. Hence, if you watched my video I did on etymology, and we did about the word goat and in different languages and how it is to do with capitalism. And yeah, also because when you decapitate someone, it's you're cutting their head off. So capitalism is about death, and this also kind of ties into the whole side of maritime law, but I'm not going to get into that. I'm just kind of showing you how that all connects. However, the tail of Capricorn rests in the water, revealing quite another dimension to this sign. Capricorns harbour powerful emotions, which, as this is an earth sign, they may find it difficult to express. Materialistic Capricorns need to understand and accept these feelings if they are not to be a problem. If these feelings are not acknowledged, they will nag until given adequate expression. Together with these emotions, Capricorn possesses all the other qualities of the water element, positive and negative, healing, power, and great visions, but also the tendency to deception and the ability to manipulate. Well, yeah, they're like what it's talking about, the tendency for deception and to manipulate ties in to the archetype and the planet of Saturn, which I'm going to read in a second. But before we go into that, I always show that the zodiac is also within the body, and the part of the body that Capricorn rules is the kneecaps, hence the word cap in kneecap. And also it corresponds with like the skeletal structure in general. But in further episodes, I'm going to do like episodes where we're going to concentrate on each sign in relation to medical astrology. This is just to get a basic understanding of the sign and its ruling planet. So what I'm going to now do is talk about the planet of Saturn. So, Saturn rules Capricorn and Aquarius. In complete contrast to Jupiter, Saturn rules the principles of limitation and restriction, as Jupiter brings growth, so Saturn provides structures within that growth must take place. In its positive form, Saturn represents self-discipline and self-control. In its negative form, it brings repression and inhibition. As a result, even though Saturn's astrological correlations are quite simple, its psychological manifestations can be complicated. The causes and results of inhibition and repression are many and varied. Modern astrology has revived the ancient description of Saturn as the dark sun, giving this planet the role of the shadow, the part of the psyche in which all characteristics and behavior are deposited when considered unacceptable. This material does not disappear, but finds its way into our lives in unwelcome ways. Saturn often provokes difficult or challenging circumstances. Frequently, these can be traced to individual behavior and are self-induced, but sometimes they can be brought about by fate. The external circumstances force internal change, and if the individual is ready for the inner development, then in many cases, the pressure of the environment will be alleviated. In general, Saturn causes delays, obstacles, and material difficulties. It rules tradition, conservatism, established institutions, the authority of the state and religion, the police, and social taboos. In its more positive form, it is linked to self-discipline, hard work, organizational ability, and loyalty. Another thing as well that I want to make clear is like, generally Saturn is associated with Satan and evilness. And here it's saying, obviously being in Capricorn, it's a very materialistic kind of energy. But one thing we need to note is that all planets and all signs have a negative and positive aspects. So like it was saying here, we need Saturnian energy because like it says here, Saturn's archetype is about discipline, self-discipline and restriction. And we need that in our life because if we don't have that part, we'll just be overindulgent and we'll have no discipline. But the thing is with what the elites have been doing with the concept of Saturn is kind of using it in a bad way to restrict our movements to our everyday freedoms. Like for example, like the lockdown and getting penalty fines for parking in a particular place, or it's about rules and structure. So we do need that in life. Well, in the physical life, we need that. But unfortunately, I think because the mainstream and not the mainstream, should I say, the authorities have used that in a negative way, a lot of people always like kind of tarnish Saturn or Satan or the planet, that energy with evilness, which is correct, but it also has its good side. So moving on, we're going to now talk about the sign of Aquarius, which is the second sign in the winter season. So what I'll do, because Saturn also rules Aquarius, but it's also ruled by Uranus as well. So once I've read about Aquarius, I'll just read about Uranus, because you already know about Saturn, because I've just told you about that section anyway. So Aquarius, the element is air. The quality is fixed. The ruling planets are Saturn with and Uranus as co-ruler. And the symbol is the water carrier. This is an enigmatic sign ruled by two planets with totally incompatible natures, the one desiring order and the other tearing it down. There are many contradictions in this sign's character which make it one of the most interesting. The water carrier is depicted pouring water out of a vast container, an image which symbolizes the ability of the sign to spread new ideas. Aquarius is concerned, sometimes to the point of obsession, with bringing new, radical and different and often eccentric, frequently awkward and always demanding complete personal freedom. The Uranian face of Aquarius is the anarchist, yet the Saturn side believes in authority. The result of this paradox is that Aquarians often try to impose their own unusual ways on other people, against their will if necessary. This sounds familiar of what's going on now, as we've just moved into the age of Aquarius. Where was I? It is up to them to establish order out of their own chaos, to take charge of their own unconventional instincts, and to define and channel them. Because Aquarius is a fixed sign, Aquarians often develop a lifestyle or set attitudes which they find it impossible to change. Here is another paradox. Aquarians establish themselves as different from everyone else, but then themselves remain unchanged. Aquarians specialize in producing new ideas, but because these are impractical, they need help. They need the help of other signs to implement them. So, yeah, and also the Aquarius part of the body is the shins, and also the electrical system within us, like the meridians and the nerves. So yeah, like just reading this whole part about Aquarius just kind of sums up today's world. As we know, in 2020, the 21st of December 2020, where the Great Conjunction happened in 0 degrees Aquarius, was the start of the age of Aquarius. And it makes so much sense where it's saying how, like, it's very double-sided, where you have this very restrictive authoritarian side, which is what we're seeing from the authorities now, but you also have this very different side of introducing new ideas and thinking outside the box, which I think relates more to the spiritual side, and also to what's going on in relation to like the whole pandemic with Corona and giving people these new ideas and these new thoughts. But again, like I said, they're using it, the system are using it in a negative way, whereas we can use the more new idea theme of Aquarius to share spirituality and help people with looking at life from a new perspective. So totally, this whole paragraph of Aquarius really sums up the time that we live in. So yeah, like it said earlier, Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and Uranus, but obviously I've already read about Saturn in relation to Capricorn, which it rules both Capricorn and Aquarius. So what I'm going to do now is just read about the second ruler of Aquarius, which is Uranus. So Uranus is the co-ruler of Aquarius. If Saturn is the planet of order, stability, and structure, then Uranus is the planet which tears down all established systems. Astrologers derive the symbolism of Uranus from its eccentric rotation. Unlike other planets, Uranus turns on its axis from east to west, and from the fact that its discovery at the end of the 18th century, which coincided with the political revolutions in America and France and the Industrial Revolution in England. What it's saying about it was discovered in the 17th century, and that is actually not particularly true, because we see like the archetypes of Uranus in ancient Greek and ancient Egyptian mythologies, because we have in ancient Egypt, you have the mythology of Nut and Geb, the sky goddess and the earth god. And Nut is the sky, which is Uranus. The firmament, the actual zodiac itself, is a symbology of Uranus energy. And like I said, Nut in the Egyptian mythology also coincides with the firmament and the stars, which is the Uranian energy, because that's why it's to do with thinking outside of the box, because the 7 planets from Moon, Mercury, Venus, Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn are planets that we can all see with the physical eye. So they relate more to the physical world, whereas Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are kind of beyond the physical world. So that's why they kind of tie in with more psychological and spiritual ideas and thinking outside of the box. Uranus is a revolutionary, radical, individualistic, and independent. It tends to be progressive, but its main need is to be seen to be different. In a progressive atmosphere, it may well be reactionary. Uranus is associated with humanitarianism and philanthropy, but also with chaos and terror. This planet is often antisocial and uncooperative. Its function is to stir up all who have accepted conventional beliefs and behavior. People with strong Uranus presence in their chart are often motivated by a desire to separate themselves from what they see as the unthinking masses, and they are often unable to resist the temptation of trying to change society. Uranus is a planet of personal transformation, which accomplishes by bringing out sudden changes and by raising new possibilities, sometimes welcome and others traumatic. In some cases, the individual may be deprived of a lifestyle which has been safe and secure, while others, radical changes may often up new vistas. In the world of physical objects, Uranus rules new technology, for example, computers, electronics, and nuclear power. Yeah, definitely what it was saying about like sudden changes and new ideas and new ways of thinking, because we can see that a lot with certain agendas being pushed. And again, I'm not saying this like to be I'm not for or against it. I'm just correlating with what I noticed to the energy of Uranus, like things like the whole rise of the LGBT community, and there's like people associate themselves with many different genders, and even things like the rise of veganism ties into the whole Uranus energy, because it is a total new way of thinking. But unfortunately, like I said, what the elites do is like they take the concept of Uranus, but they always use the negative concept of it rather than using it for the positive. But the one thing I've come to notice studying spirituality and the world we live in is that unfortunately, the physical world will always have a positive and negative polarity. So we just have to try and find that middle ground and work with it as best as we can. In my chart, I have Uranus in the sign of Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is about philosophy, religion, higher wisdom. And as you know from my videos and what I share in my videos, I do share a lot of new findings and ideas and new ways of looking at these things. In terms of my Saturn placement, I have Saturn in the 4th house in Scorpio. So that's where my Saturnian energy lies. So what we're going to now do is move on to the final sign of the zodiac and the winter season, which is Pisces, which is ruled by 2 planets of Jupiter and Neptune. So what I'm going to first do is talk about Pisces, and then we're going to read about Neptune and Jupiter. So Pisces, element water, quality and mode, mutable. Ruling planets, Jupiter with Neptune as co-ruler, and the symbol is the 2 fishes. Pisces is the most unworldly of all the signs. Of its 2 planetary rulers, one rules religion and the other mysticism. This is hardly a combination to encourage success in worldly pursuits. Pisceans often withdraw from the world into a safe refuge. Emotional, sensitive, and vulnerable, Pisceans lack the hard shell of those under the influence of the other 2 water signs of Cancer and Scorpio. Their defense against the world is therefore to wear disguises, and these people are skilled in adapting to different situations, concealing their real feelings. They are like chameleons, changing their color at will. They often appear to be a part of whatever is happening, when in fact they have drifted off into a private fantasy. Pisceans are exceptionally imaginative and just as perceptive as Scorpios. If they develop practical skills, they are able to express their talents in a number of ways. They can be excellent artists, but they are also self-sacrificing, wanting to find a role which has a greater meaning. They are attracted to charitable work and are easily exploited. This is a manipulative sign, and Pisceans succeed on that stage in the church and in politics, where performance and ritual enable them to provide illusion and a spectacle. Pisceans' weakness in handling the real world can lead to chronic indecision. They tend to reject most worldly matters and as unimportant, and they give appearance of falling when in fact they have made no attempt to succeed. Also, in the body, you can't see it because my board's not there, but I'll quickly show you. Yeah, in the body, Pisces rules the 2 feet, which are the 2 fish. So this is why it explained that Piscean people are very sensitive, because obviously the 2 feet are what are attached to the ground and feel the senses. So this is why Pisceans are very sensitive people in relation to their body. But the element, they're a water sign, and as we know, the element of water corresponds with emotions and psychicness. So this is why they are very emotional and yeah, they're very what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, they're just sensitive. Yeah, they're very sensitive people. And yeah, personally, as a water sign myself, I like the energy of Pisces. I have so many Pisces friends, and I think they're all beautiful people. Like, do you get what I'm saying? Obviously, I don't. We all have our good and bad side and our personal vices that we're working with, but that's to do with all signs. But generally speaking, I really connect well with the Piscean energy. Pisces is in my 8th house, but I don't have any planets in the 8th house. But I do have a good Jupiter, which is in Sagittarius. But enough about me, let's get back to this. I'm now going to read about the planets of Jupiter and Neptune. So let's get into that. So Jupiter. Jupiter rules Sagittarius and Pisces. Jupiter in astrology shows 2 faces, both taken from classical mythology. On the one hand, Jupiter was the great king of the gods, dispensing justice with supreme wisdom, while on the other hand, he was a licentious womanizer and a glutton. In astrology, Jupiter is quite simply the planet of growth and expansion. These can take place in any realm, spiritual, emotional, mental, or physical, depending on the location of Jupiter in the horoscope. Jupiter does everything on a grandiose and inflated scale. At best, it is wise, generous, and bountiful, but when it is completely uncontrolled, it can be wasteful, extravagant, and indulgent. Jupiter has specific associations with religion, belief, philosophy, and law. It shares with Mercury homogeny over reason and the intellectual processes. But whereas Mercury rules knowledge and communication of knowledge, Jupiter brings wisdom and understanding that enables the utilization of knowledge. That's really interesting how it compared Mercury and Jupiter, because if you look in the zodiac, wherever Mercury is, directly opposite is Jupiter. So Gemini is ruled by Mercury. Directly opposite Gemini is Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter. And the same with Virgo. Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and directly opposite Virgo is Pisces, which is ruled by Jupiter. So you see there that Mercury and Jupiter kind of have this connection. One is kind of a more, I would kind of connect Mercury, like it says, with intellect and communication. It's more of a youthful kind of energy, whereas Jupiter is more about wisdom and a more mature energy. Like Mercury, Jupiter rules travel through its journeys are long voyages of exploration and adventure, whether physical, spiritual, or intellectual. These are the means by which Jupiter accomplishes its principal aim to grow. Traditionally, Jupiter has always been known as a planet which brings good fortunes, rewards, and opportunities. It is not, however, sufficient in itself, and to make Jupiterian good fortune permanent, Saturn is necessary. So we're going to now go on to the second ruler of Pisces, which is Neptune. So Neptune is the co-ruler of Pisces. Neptune in classical mythology is ruled by the oceans, and in astrology it is a planet of transformation, working like the sea eroding the land, steadily undermining life's physical certainties. Gradual change comes about out of old attitudes, beliefs, and lifestyles go out of fashion or are forgotten. In politics, Neptune is associated with socialism. In the world of economics, it rules oil and is therefore of considerable importance in the modern world. In its highest form, Neptune rules mystical truth and the universal urge for union with the divine. And in everyday life, it influences dreams and visions, which are humanity's highest motivation. It encourages the charity, sensitivity, and self-sacrifice, often necessary to put these into effect. In its lower form, Neptune brings greed, fraud, and deception of self and others. Its vision readily turning to disillusionment and cynicism. Like the sea, Neptune is difficult to pin down. Neptunian people are skilled at changing their disguise in order to adopt different faces. People who externalize this may become performers or gurus, while others may take refuge in fashion, religion, mysticism, or behind a smokescreen of drink and drugs. Yeah, in relation to myself, I have Neptune in the sign of Sagittarius, so that kind of ties in well, like in relation to the mysticism and spirituality, because that is a part of me that really comes out. I am really into, I have a stellium in the sign of Sagittarius. And for those that don't know what stellium is where you have a large chunk of planets in one sign or one house. And I have 5 planets in the sign of Sagittarius, which are Mercury, Uranus, Jupiter, South Node, and Neptune. So as my sun sign is a water sign, which is Scorpio, but I actually have a lot of fire energy um, in my chart. And the house that my Neptune falls in is in the house of service to others and health, which I have been getting into a lot more since I've gotten to my spiritual journey. But what I'm going to do, like now I've done these 4 episodes on the basics of the signs and the ruling planets, what I want to now do after this is tie this all into just everyday life. Like, for example, how the planets connect with our 7 chakras, or how the planets connect with the 7 days of the week and why they correspond with particular days of week, and how planets connect with certain metals in alchemy. And then we're going to talk about medical astrology, and there's so much stuff that astrology ties into. So this little 4 episode of introducing signs and ruling planets were just for the people who don't have a foundation of astrology, just to get the basics. So what we're going to do after this is get a bit more deeper into looking at medical astrology, looking at how to read birth charts, like I said, looking at the planets and its relation to alchemy. So keep tuned. We're going to have a lot more stuff. And also, I kind of do like 2 videos a week. I do one which is kind of purely based on astrology, and then one which is based on esoteric sciences. But I also suggest that you watch the esoteric science videos as well, because a lot of it ties into astrology as well. So then you can kind of tie the 2 together, like almost tying the right and left brain together. So what I'm going to do now is, with this book, is we're just going to go through a summary of Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, and just read some main bullet points in relation to it. So let's get into that. Bear with me for a moment. So here we go. So Capricorn is from December the 22nd to January the 20th. Its ruler is Saturn. Its element is Earth. Its quality and mode is cardinal. Capricorn is the 10th sign of the zodiac. Capricorns have the following characteristics: resolve, generosity, wisdom, superiority, ambition, and dependability. Among their sins are stiffness, loneliness, clumsiness, pretension, and self-doubt. Aquarius is from the 21st of January to February the 19th. The ruler is Saturn and Uranus. The element is air, and the quality and mode is fixed. Aquarius is the 11th sign of the zodiac. Aquarians have the following characteristics: visions, originality, charity, tolerance, independence, and individuality. Aquarian sins may include eccentricity, disobedience, separateness, thoughtlessness, neurosis, and cruelty. And finally, Pisces is from the 21st of February to the 20th of March. The rulers are Jupiter and Neptune. The element is water, and the quality is mutable. Pisces is the 12th and final sign of the zodiac. Pisces have the following characteristics: understanding, compatibility, perception, awareness, creativity, and spirituality. Piscean sins may include diffidence, smugness, lack of will, rage, fearfulness, and indecision. So we've come to the end of our video, brothers and sisters. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Like I always say on my videos, if you have any questions and anything that I haven't made clear, feel free to message me. And even if you just want to message me to ask me anything else, you can do so via the messenger system on the website. So like I said, if you haven't watched the other ones, go back and watch it from the start so you can get like a full kind of outlook on how the seasons work. But like I said, we're going to be going over this many times in the coming lessons when we talk about the birth chart and medical astrology and dive a bit more deeper into the planets. And also we're going to look at the signs and how it correlates with like religious or mythological characters in theology. So we've still got a lot to go through. So like I said, I look forward to seeing you guys soon, and peace, love and blessings. I'm out.